Book Memories, a guest blog post series run on dantheartman.com. This week's post is by Laura Nicole. Book Memories, number 5.
Hi everyone, this is Laura Nicole from the Gypsy in the Attic podcast, and I'm here to talk to you about books and why I like reading. But let's backtrack a little bit. You might want to know a little bit about me first to know why I'm not an expert, but why I can be an authority on a certain type of reading. I'm a voice actor, for those of you who don't know. I do narrations and I do characters. It's fascinating to me how you can take a simple sentence and go from, well, that was nice, to, well, that was nice. Inflections and different tones can certainly set a mood that you can't really get just from reading lines off a page. This is why I am in love with reading books via audio. Ever since high school, I realized that I enjoyed listening to books and reading things out loud because that was the way that I was able to learn. Big surprise, I was a big theater fan and was very involved in it. I know, I'm shocked too. But being able to not only read the words, but read them out loud and act them out was able to put some physicality and something that I can relate to the words on the page. It's very difficult for someone like me just to read it without actually experiencing it. The other reason that I prefer audiobooks is because I'm very fidgety. I can't just sit down and read a book unless I can actually hear the voices of the characters in my head. This works out well for books by authors that I've actually met and have a personal relationship with. Authors like Nathan Lowell, T. Morris, and Philippa Ballantine, separate or together. Alex White, I've met them. I know what their voice sounds like, and so when I read their work, I can hear the syntax that they use when they're speaking those words, and I can hear them in the characters and the way that they would turn those characters and do their accents. It brings the book to life for me. But when I first had to learn about these books, I couldn't just sit around and read. I had too many other things to do. I had to clean the house and walk the dogs and drive to work and everything like that. Driving to Balticon. That's a really good method of getting some reading done while driving, because I listen to them all. And it brings a whole different dimension than just having a page be there in front of you. It gives you a voice to relate to. And I can't imagine not having listened to books. It wasn't until when I was probably 18. I was helping out a friend of the family clean her house once a week. And we would listen to the Harry Potter books on CD. And it was absolutely fascinating how quickly I got absorbed in the story. And the voice actor did such a phenomenal job of not only just reading the words on the page, but bringing me into the story and pacing himself with the action and making all the characters different and come to life for me. So the reason that I do what I do is, A, I love to act. But also, I really enjoy sharing this form of reading with other people. There are people, probably like me, that just can't do one thing. I mean, here I am sitting and talking into my microphone, and my hands are going all over the place because I can't sit still. And I know there's more people like me. There's also more people like me that absorb stories better by listening to them, either because of not being able to read very well, because of dyslexia or any other numbers of disorders. It's a really brilliant way to bring people together to share an idea or to share an adventure. And I loved the challenge of taking words that somebody else had written, and even words that I'd written, and pulling them off the screen and putting them into another format so that more people can be brought into that world that I got to experience as well, and build it around them and make them feel the way I felt when I was reading the scenes. Make them feel the tension or the heartbreak or the joy that is inherent in any story that any good author wants to convey. It's easier to understand if you've got a voice behind it, for some people. For some people, it's perfectly acceptable and mandatory to read in silence. And I envy you people because it takes a very strong imagination to build a world based on words alone. And I hope that when I write, I can build a world for the readers to enjoy as well as for the listeners to enjoy. So thanks for listening to my story, given to you in the best way that I know how. And if you want to learn more about what I do, you can go on over to gypsylaura.com, and you can find my podcast, Gypsy in the Attic, and any other projects that I'm currently working on. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time in the attic.
Laura Nicole has been making silly voices since she was a child. At the encouragement of her father, she started voice acting since 2004, starting with shows on BrokenSea.com and Circus13Productions.com. Her roles include strong artistic leading women, colorful villains, and a lot of computer voices. Currently, she is narrating her novel, Absolution, and other projects to be named. As a writer, Laura has written short audio dramas for gypsyaudio.org and has worked on the Please Spray Your Tribbles blog for Flying Island Press magazine. Laura's current work that she has out is Stonebriar Case File 186, Bad Alchemy, in both EPUB and audio, and her podcast, Gypsy in the Attic. You can find more information about her work at www.gypsylaura.com. Wow, that was awesome. Thank you for sending that in, Laura. It's funny that you talked about audiobooks and then chose to send it in as a voice recording. I'm pretty sure that was on purpose because you asked if you could do that, and I thought that was awesome. I actually do almost all of my reading via audiobooks. I have 2 hours of commuting every workday, and it's turned out to be a great time to get a bunch of reading done. In fact, it's pretty much the only time I get any reading done. One of the first audiobooks I bought was Truman Capote's In Cold Blood, narrated by Scott Brick, who has become one of my favorite audiobook narrators. He's brilliant. I remember driving to work, listening to that audiobook, probably 3 times in the first year that I owned it, because it was just that good. I think if I would have read the book in paper, I also would have loved it, but the way that Scott narrated the story just really brought me into the world, and the way he rendered the characters, the dialogue, oh man, it was amazing. Scott Brick is one of the greats. I also purchased Moby Dick on audiobook as a CD set, which that was a lot of CDs. But I don't think I could have actually finished that book if I was reading the paperback, since I was able to listen to maybe the best audiobook narrator ever, Frank Muller, the late great Frank Muller, unfortunately. He pulled me through the story. Moby Dick is a great novel, but the middle of it is pretty much an encyclopedia on whales and whale anatomy and what you can use whale fat for. Pretty boring stuff. But thanks to the audiobook version, I was able to finish the whole book. So thanks, Laura, for sending that in. Don't forget you can send in your own book memories I'll publish them as a guest blog post on my website with cool pictures, and I'll podcast it like you just heard. Well, you just heard Laura do it, but normally I will be doing the podcasting. Just send your guest post in with your book memories to danabso@hotmail.com. That's DANABSO@hotmail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time with a guest blog post from Sally Preston. It's going to be another great one. How do I know? I already got to read it. This podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivative Works license. Music is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com. Sound effects are from freesound.org. Thanks for listening.